Well, welcome to the AI in Action podcast series, General Brito.
Hey, thanks, Hannah. It's great to be with you again today. And thanks for this opportunity.
So, what scares you the most about AI?
Well, it is not the boogeyman that some people make it up to be. And to answer your question bluntly, I can't say anything scares me about it, but I think there's some things that we have to be cautious with or just simply plan for. And up front, uh, we should, everybody, embrace technology and leverage it as a tool to make your daily lives and job better. No different than any other tool. There was some that talked bad about the cell phone I'm handing here or the internet when it first came out. But it's a tool that can help us do things faster, facilitate some decision making, and just improve on output. Now, with that, Hannah, that kind of to your question, if there's anything that concerns me, I won't say scares me, it has to be controlled, just like any tool. I've been retired now for about 7 months-ish. And while in uniform, lots of technology, everything from weapons and night vision goggles to AI-enabled systems were coming out quite quickly. But if leveraged well and trained on properly, they were great tools that just made your job better. You could do things better. And I can give a couple of examples. But specifically to the question, I do think we need to have some guardrails to control what is expected output of artificial intelligence. Lots of great things can come. Uh, if you want to call it ethical rules, just some guardrails to manage what the tool can be leveraged for. It doesn't replicate what humans can do when it comes to emotional intelligence or judgment on the spot. And those things need to be factored in, but it will change potentially the landscape that we operate in, but no different than any other technology that came out in the last 5, 6, 10, 20 years, a lot of which I saw while serving. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. I appreciate your emphasis on it being a tool. I think too often folks get caught up into the, oh goodness, this big new tech thing,
Yeah, yeah.
So, what are you hopeful about with AI?
Well, Hannah, what I've already seen, and I know I'm not, the expert on the stage, and many have seen this as well, but it's enabled rapid decision making, which is great. It's enabled digesting and integrating tons of data that may be out there and synthesizing it to helping, I won't say doing it, helping to solve a problem. It does things quickly for us. So we've all seen that, and I'm sure I could pick 10 examples and you could pick 15 examples of how that has worked. So that's exciting. I'll give one small one that I saw while before retirement. We leveraged some data and AI tools to help write curriculums a little faster or help narrow down what seemed to be a very unmanageable problem to something that could be executed. And so that's proof that it could work. But even with that, I had to have some operating procedures, SOPs, and people involved with what this tool can do. So I'm excited about that. And I know all the civilian world, all the corporate world is as well. Um, a downside of it, I won't say a downside of it. I like to look at it as an opportunity,
Mhm.
is it is going to potentially reshape the human capital environment, how we hire folks, how we retain and retrain employees, and more importantly, strategically, I would recommend we need to look to the left of that and what type of education might high schoolers and college folks need now before they enter the workforce with this tool that's there. It's not coming, it's there. I think we've been talking about it since 2022. So it's there and will continue to grow and it's global. So lots of opportunity that comes from tools like this, and it'll just continue to get bigger and better. But that human in the middle somewhere needs to be involved with ownership and accountability. We shouldn't expect the system or the tool to oh, I hit the send, so the computer has responsibility. No, you do. And again, just an evolution of things, which I have very optimistic that we use it the right way.
Yeah, that's very enlightening. I like how you emphasize, we can't, we're not delegating accountability or responsibility when it comes to utilizing this tool.
Yes, and you can't, not unlike any others we've had. Again, obviously, my previous experience has been several decades in the military, but new weapons, new night vision goggles, new intelligence systems enable you to do your job differently and in most cases better, but the person was still behind it. So you can't delegate that responsibility.
So how do you think AI is changing our society? It's only really been in the normal vocabulary for a few years now.
Yeah. No, sure, certainly. For one, the people landscape, but I use that as a non-doctrinal word in this case. Uh, Matter of fact, the job I just left, I know jobs that people are in today. There's lots of discussion about will the AI of the future replace my job? So will I be replaced by AI or robotics? So what changes will take place in the workplace? And corporations are making those decisions, I know, and I'm sure other agencies are also, Hannah. So to say that it won't impact the society, we're wrong. No different than the cell phone of today, the many laptops of today, you name it. Autonomous vehicles, autonomous Ubers, all that has changed society. So uh, there needs to be a level, these are my words, measured embrace, how you embrace these capabilities and use them for the good, not for any bad. They just need to be managed, and we should not stick your head in the dirt and think it's going away. Unless you're living in a certain place you don't need it, fine. But we shouldn't stick our head in the dirt and see it's going away. And my experience at this point, Hannah, and I'm really glad you asked this question. As you mentioned, it's been around-ish for about 5 or 6 years and continues to get faster and better every day. Uh, so the youth of today, they'll get it, just like they get this cell phone that I didn't get when I was a youth. I sense that I'll have to be incorporated with education, high school and college education as well, so that it's an available asset day one in anything. Um, I mentioned to you earlier, we're in a process of house hunting. Well, there was some automated tools being used for that,
Wow.
and that assisted the process. In this case, it was some drone type stuff, but my point is the technology is there. It's allowing them to do the job more efficiently. And something that's been pretty public on any news channel lately, the potential impacts of AI on the current and future workforce. And that alone tells you from shore to shore that society has and will be impacted. And we just need to one, plan for that, take care of people as best we can, given these tools, and then do think through the ethical guardrails that this tool and any other tool should need so they can be used for good. And I'll stop there.
Well, one thing that surprised me, especially the past few months, just my own kind of journey with AI, is I noticed that AI just enables so many more capabilities on kind of the day-to-day operations of my work. But one thing that I noticed was that I am prizing or putting more emphasis on things like you mentioned, like emotional intelligence and like judgment on the spot. And for me, it was so interesting because we have this technology rollout, and then it was interesting just kind of how my mind was shifting on these things that AI cannot do are now kind of at a premium. Like these are really, they were always important skills, but like really, really important. And I don't know if it's just the contrast to like me working with AI and the contrast of that versus people, but I appreciated your emphasis on like emotional intelligence and judgment on the spot, because that's stuff that is rather distinctly human, at least in 2026.
I no, I think you're spot on and hopefully enduring for many years
Yeah.
to come. And then even with it, you need to vet the information you receive and
Mm.
perhaps double check it on a couple of
Mhm.
sources. I have a couple of friends who rely heavily on AI to help write speeches and remarks. I'm
Yeah.
not quite there yet. Um, Kind of to your point, just to personalize it the way that I would.
Mhm.
So again, a great tool that needs to be managed well.
Mhm. So what do you think people misunderstand about AI?
One, it's not an infinite amount of well, actually, it probably is an infinite amount of resources where information can be pulled. But I mentioned it needs to be vetted as well.
Mhm.
And I am definitely not a software engineer, but I do know that AI is developed to roll and think
Mhm.
a tad bit based off the amount of time that you use it. And if I use it every single day, it's going to kind of personalize things to me over a
Mhm.
while, and that's a good thing. But it should be vetted, and those are some of the things they need to know. Um, I've seen just looking at some public resources that there's some jobs that AI can't really assist with. I think one in particular, one I saw on some Sunday morning show was plumbing work. And
Yeah.
plumbers are plumbers, so he or she needs to do their work. However, there are probably some thing in diagnostic test or whatever that AI
Mhm.
could assist with. Um, and I was fortunate in the previous job to take a quick class on artificial intelligence, and I do know you learn some things like, wow, this has been here for a while, and this is what I didn't know, how to ways to leverage it, how to access it. So those are probably some of the arenas that people may not know how to do it, as opposed to just jumping on, you name your app of the day
Mhm.
to pull it up. I do sense, and we've seen this in many technologies, Hannah, even though I'll give, this may be a poor example, but I'll try to illustrate it. Now, there was a day that not everybody on the Interstate 95 was using Easy Pass,
Yeah.
so the lane was pretty empty. Now, almost everybody's using it, so it's not as empty as it once was.
Mhm.
AI is that way as well. So even though it may save you time and doing things, you're doing more things to fill up your time also. So it's just going to change the way people operate, the way people think, the way we can produce products, and that's good. But once again, a level of structure and governance on top of that will have to be there. And I feel very confident that the I'll use broadly, society will adapt and adjust, if that helps.
Yeah. So how do you think AI has the potential to impact democracy?
Hmm. That's a very interesting question. I'll take risk of saying I would probably say not too much now, with the exception of often people's opinions are
Mm.
influenced by information they have.
Mhm.
And if AI is used to influence information, whether it's real time, uh, truthful,
Mhm.
or not truthful, or propaganda, that can impact the way people think and how they could uh, shape their view of whatever in democracy, really anything.
Mm.
And heck, there's some TikTok's an example of it. You see all kinds of things which definitely shape people's opinions. So that's a really good one. I guess I look at democracy in a state of which we live in and we're used
Mhm.
to. And that one I got to give some thought about how AI could impact it, with the exception, as I just mentioned,
Mhm.
um, those things which could influence what a person sees,
Mhm.
and in essence, what they ended up shaping what they believe. Good propaganda, bad propaganda.
Mhm.
Interesting point. And unfortunately, I won't say unfortunately, but a reality is that many have a perhaps stovepipe where they do receive information, either certain channels, certain pieces on the radio, or just certain things I
Mhm.
see on the computer, nothing but. And without opening the blinders a tad bit or broadening your horizon for information, you may very well go down one lane, which will just impact what you believe and what you see. And I think we see versions of that quite a bit now.
Mm. Yeah, I remember growing up, the only kind of, if you want to, false narrative or disinformation that we were exposed to was when my grandmother would buy a tabloid at the grocery store that claimed Elvis Presley was still alive.
Yeah, I saw him the other day.
Yeah, and now,
Mhm.
with kind of how the internet's exploded and things like AI can, rapidly create and scale
Yeah.
all these things and deep fakes, it makes me feel like I'm kind of swimming in a sea of tabloids at
Yeah.
times.
Hannah, I know this wasn't part of the question, but you just made me think of something because I heard it on the radio driving yesterday, Sirius Radio, uh, how AI replicating voices
Yeah.
in in this case, it was a voice of a. I was on the news this morning. I take that back.
Mhm.
It was purely used for a scam,
Yeah.
a monetary scam. And in this case, it replicated a daughter's voice.
Mm.
Phone call to a mom says, "I've been kidnapped. What can you do?" And she fell for it because of
Oh,
that. So it can be used in a very malicious way as well, not like any
mm.
other tool. So it's
Yeah,
something to be cautious of.
that's true. That's true. Kind of dual purpose
Yeah.
technologies there, which side of the
And
coin? Yeah.
hence the ethical use, but
Yeah.
hopefully the ethical use is in the heart of the person.
Yeah.
But in this case, it wasn't.
Yeah. So what safeguards do you think should be in place, regarding AI?
In the workforce, Hannah, it could be something as simple, if adhered to, as a written standard operating procedure, SOP, on how we use it.
Yeah.
And but keep in mind, especially when you develop the codes and the software for the use of the system,
Mhm.
it can be tailored to do what you ask it to do and not
Mhm.
do what you ask it to do
Mhm.
in some cases. Now, not enough. If I jump on Google and want to get whatever AI of the day, well, that's been designed for specific parameters.
Mhm.
But not unlike use of internet when you're at work or things on the cell phone, you can establish operating procedures to hopefully govern the behavior of the person using it, for one.
Mhm.
Uh, I do know software that can be developed can be manipulated as well
Mhm.
with guardrails. And without naming any of the big social media platforms, they do that to protect
Mhm.
children and other things. So it's a way. And I'll close on that question. I think one way to do it, and this I've seen effective, was just simple a class on
Mhm.
AI training. And here's how we're going to use it. Here's how we're not going to use it. And I get a loop back the human in the middle again, who has some
Yeah.
responsibility and accountability, both individually and of course any organizational leader as well, so that it's not used as a tool, a scam, or access to things that it shouldn't have. So there's ways to do it. And I can think of the same as a younger officer. There were written procedures and firewalls on how you could use public source internet from a work computer.
Mhm.
A small example, but there's ways
Mhm.
to control it.
Mhm. Yeah, I really appreciate your emphasis on kind of, the human in the middle. I think all too often on conversations about AI and honestly, probably any big new tech thing that comes out, people seem to forget that we do have a responsibility there.
Yeah,
They view it as the tsunami.
yeah. Hannah, if I may, probably 6 months. Maybe, no, I take that back. Close to a year now, but 6 months before I retired, I was on a
Mhm.
field exercise and obviously still serving in the Army. And a very intelligent warrant officer who worked in Intel was utilizing an artificial intelligence tool to help pull in data and make a map
Mhm.
of information. And it was almost, to me, it was hard to even digest because it was so much. But he
Mhm.
was well trained. But I really appreciate, unprompted, something that he said. Even I have, sir, even all this comes in
Mhm.
and almost paints the decision for me. Said it's my responsibility to apply logic. Two words that stuck with me: apply logic and judgment.
Mm,
And that last one is the biggest one that stuck in my mind, the judgment which he owned and felt obligated to apply.
mhm.
Yeah, not to say that it would change the information that came through the AI systems, but at the end of the day, the decision and the judgment was his as a well-trained human behind it.
Mhm.
And that lesson has stuck with me, well, I guess for about a year now. And I think about it quite a bit when I look at this, using your word, the tsunami that could come from the system.
Yeah, that's such a great example.
And he was really shocked. I was very impressed.
Yeah. So, what do you think an AI empowered future is going to look like for Americans?
It's going to be rapid. What we see this week will probably improve next week.
Yeah.
So and I see it now. My sense is almost every institution, from school to fire stations, hospitals, military, of course, will leverage some capabilities that come through AI. I think we'll see it to make faster record-keeping type of decisions.
Mhm.
We'll see it used in literature, curriculum and development in schools. I'll just got to throw some examples out. You may very well see it. And this one I got from talking to a friend not too long ago. And managing inventory,
Mhm.
places like hospitals, logistics depots, and others. And we may see it to decipher and analyze intelligence that military forces may use. I know we will, and we already are. But even with that, there's somebody behind the screen. I can't overemphasize this, that throws the logic, the judgment, perhaps the empathy
Mhm.
behind it to use the tools that were provided to them. I gave you just a couple examples. So, and I don't think it's going to be 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to be a now, next week, the year after that, the year after that. And I would add, Hannah, and although not specifically part of the question, but I got this from a friend I was talking to, a mentee-mentor type of relationship,
Mhm.
maybe 2 months ago. This person works in education,
Okay.
and his point was, uh, what do we need to get freshmen and juniors in high school now
Mhm.
so that when they get to college, this isn't just something really new, a new spaceship to them, or even in the workforce. And another corporation I was talking to just 2 weeks ago, and what do they need to do now and how they hire folks? Will some be replaced? Yes. Will some duty descriptions have to be redone? Yes. What type of training do we need to train the current workforce that's there and very, very valuable? So almost every aspect of society will be changed a bit, if not a lot, and then some
Mhm.
not so much. But we do need to get behind it. It's just one of these things. If you just put your head in the dirt, you'll get hit by the tsunami.
Well, thank you so much, General Brito, for sharing your insights on AI in Action series. Your insights are very helpful, applicable, and timely to today's rapidly changing world.
Well, thanks for that, Hannah. And I this is our second one. I look forward to more, and I really appreciate the time with you.